Well, good day everyone. Looky what we got here. Everybody watching should know what that is. It's a transformer bobbin. This is that of a 12 volt lead acid battery charger, and I think the output of the transformer was 6 amps continuous. It says 10 amps on the front, but if you do a few simple calculations, I also downloaded a windings calculator and verified that I was correct with my formula. The problem with this is that this thing's gotten toasty, and well, the primary was dead short. So I was just going to chuck it out, and then I thought, nah, well, let's have a go at rewinding it. So apart from the fact that the windings were toasty, the actual laminations are perfect. Nothing wrong with them at all. I used a razor blade to separate the laminations, so I don't think it's going to be a problem with the actual insulating lacquer, if you like, on the laminations, because look, I can just get some TX lacquer and just brush it on, which I'm not going to do because they look fine, and according to my research, it's not absolutely critical that they're flawlessly insulated anyway. I don't really think eddy currents are going to be a problem. Now my question, because I know that I've read quite a lot about this kind of stuff recently, try and gen myself up about this. I've read stuff in the past on transformers, but yay, I mean, it was years ago, so I'm just kind of wondering, because I know that there are plenty of guys on here that know more than I do about this kind of stuff. I mean, I've always had a really big interest in electronics up to a point. I mean, I built circuits from scratch, you know, like kits and stuff, but I prefer to repair electronics, but even then, modern electronics are sort of not really made to be repaired, so I like the electrical side of things, you know. So transformers are an interest area, they always have been. If you want to have a look at the this is the secondary that came off that transformer. It's 1.71 mil, and look, by the black colour, and it's obviously supposed to look like that, it's been very hot, and it has that lovely aroma that you get from a knackered transformer or electric motor. Same with the primary. A lot of the primary, and you can see why it shorts, the lacquer just evaporates and turns to charcoal, and then they short. I was going to plug it straight in. It actually came from the same scrap pile as the piece of shit seller on there. But I stuck the multimeter across it at the last second before I actually plugged it in. Like, I'd wired up a cord and everything. I just said, oh, you know, screw it. If it blows the fuse, or trips the breaker, I should say. It trips the breaker, so, you know, who gives a shit? But I thought, no, I better actually, you know, ohm it up, and sure enough, 0.9 ohms. Well, according to Ohm's law, that would drag a staggering amount of current, so, yeah, it would have blown the fuse. Sorry, breaker. Yeah, I know, I'm used to that, but, oh well. Used to there being a fuse, but... Now, I have some data available here as well. This is my calculations, my abhorrent scribble, if you like. And in case you guys are wondering, no, I'm not apologising for my crappy writing. I'm just merely saying that it is crappy. So you can kind of see some of the details I've got here. Primary, and this is measured with a vernier, not... I measured the actual thickness of the primary and secondary windings, and then I calculated everything without putting in any thicknesses or anything. So I've measured 0.45 millimeters of the primary, and that's exactly what the calculation came up with too. And the secondary is sorry, if my brain decides to work properly, the secondary is 1.71 millimeters. Now the core is 25 millimeters by 50 millimeters, and not that it seems to matter, it's 37 mil high, but just to be thorough, I measured it anyway. Now my question is this: I realise that there are a different number of turns, slightly different, 60 Hertz as compared to 50 Hertz. Now a lot of the formulas I've been using have been written by Americans. Now that's fine, but I'm not entirely sure. Now, I mean, mathematics are not one of my strong points. Now I know that there are going to be people watching this video that, you know, it's no problem. You know, hey, they're good at it. I've determined that the primary should be 843 turns. Initially, yeah, I was going to just measure the length and just, you know, do it that way, but I decided no, screw it, let's calculate it and do it properly, because that's half the fun of actually doing it, rewinding it. So primary 0.45 millimeters at 843 turns. The secondary is 1.71 millimeters at 49 turns. Now, like I said, the core 25 by 50 millimeters, and according to the calculator I downloaded, the input, it didn't specify if this was dead short or loaded or unloaded, but I'm assuming it's just simply at idle. It's 407.727 milliamps, so it's just under half an amp, and you know, you'd probably expect it to go up to an amp or whatever if it's loaded up, because this is, I'm guessing that's probably the idle value, because it seems a bit low to be the actual loaded up value. So I've read pages and pages of stuff, but if you guys have any wisdom that, you know, I've overlooked, yeah, I'm pretty sure that this sounds about right, because there would have been about 50 turns, or just under 50 turns on the secondary. So I know that if you get it wrong, and you don't have enough turns, the magnetic flux density through the core reaches saturation point, and you've basically, yeah, you've got a saturated core. It's not gonna put out much voltage, and it's also going to run very hot. So you end up with, excuse me guys if I sound a little bit vague. This is something I've really only just started reading a lot about, and I'm going to keep rereading everything until I fully understand it. But I thought it would be more fun to sort of throw it out there and see what everyone else knows. Yeah, let me know what you think. Last thing you want is a saturated core or a burnt transformer or whatever. Insulation, not worried about it. I've done a bit of research, and the insulation between the primary and the secondary is very, very critical. The insulation between the core and the primary is critical, but it's got a plastic bob in there anyway. And I'm going to use a product called, I think it's called Nomex, and they use it to insulate electric motors and whatnot. So I've researched it thoroughly, and it's fire retardant and everything, so it has properties similar to Kevlar. I'm going to use transformer lacquer, and I'm probably not going to dip it in there and, you know, put it under a vacuum or anything like a lot of manufacturers do that apparently, and it's very interesting. But I'll just lacquer the windings with a brush. I'm not going to go out, you know, not going to go overboard. I've read tutorials that say by people that have built plenty of transformers who haven't even bothered to lacquer the windings at all. Now I'm going to do it. For every millimetre thickness of lacquer, you get 3,300 volts insulation. So it sounds good. The more insulation, the better. So Nomex masking tape and transformer lacquer, I'm not worried about it. I mean, it's not just going to go bang. I've obviously gotten the calculations, you know, not far from wrong. I think the calculator I used actually is slightly more conservative than the formula that I used, because the formula calculated the windings to be slightly fewer in number than the calculator. The calculator was a higher number of windings, so that's what I'm guessing. Yeah, anyway, Thanks for watching, guys, and let me know what you think.